Hello, everyone. Is that okay if I stand there? It's easier for me. I'm not a mover. How's everything? Good, yeah? Well, I don't know what you've done today, but you probably heard a lot of people speaking, so I hope I make it a little bit interesting. And I will start with one of my findings of this year, which is when we avoid seeing or acknowledging injustice in front of us, we invariably legitimize it and allow for the corruptions of our own values. When we avoid seeing and acknowledging injustice in front of us, we invariably legitimize it and allow for the corruptions of our own values. As in, we all feel that we are good. We have our values, we have our morals, we have you don't do that and you don't do that and all of these things. And we all have a very good image of ourselves. Well, but when you see someone being beaten up in the streets, or when you see someone who is being sexually harassed, whatever the injustice, whatever it is, or mere poverty, or anything like that, or a friend in front of you who lied, or cheated, or anything like that, and it's your best friend, or your brother, or your sister, when you don't say anything about it, when you avoid and you say, la, 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 does not exist, you legitimize that act of injustice. And you allow for the corruption of the values you believe you have. You know, we all have a story. It is one thing that we think of ourselves in our goodness. It's quite another thing that we think of ourselves in our badness. It's perhaps the hardest journey, actually, to do it. And we each have the story when we saw injustice and we didn't do anything about it. I guarantee you, otherwise we would not be living in the world that we live in. For me, it was a story, it was many stories, but the story that really just stayed was when I was young. Now, my father was Saddam Hussein's private pilot, and we were part of Saddam Hussein's social circle. And when I was young, Saddam's youngest sister, a daughter, who was my brother's age, 9 years old, 10 years old, something like that. She ordered her guards to play with my brother and threw him in the mud. They're children playing, except the guards were executing the play. And she threw him the guards threw him at the mud, and my brother was crying. And they threw him again, and he was crying, and they threw him again, and he was crying, and she was laughing, and my brother was not laughing. He was not playing. This was torture for him. And the scene, everyone was watching this. The guards who were being ordered by a 9-year-old kid, the adults who knew that this does not feel right and it does not look right. Me, my brother, my lovely brother that I adore, I couldn't do anything about it. And it was in that silence. Now, I'm not telling you to also go and do crazy things and risk your life. But in that silence, we legitimize the acts. We make it okay. We each have our own stories. Mine also include going to school in Iraq and learning about my friends who talk about public executions in the streets of Iraq. And I knew it was too dangerous to say anything about it. And so I would be silent in front of my parents, afraid to even tell them that I know that Saddam, who we dined with almost every night of my growing up, was killing people in the daytime and was torturing people in the daytime. And I was silent because I was so scared, not only for my own well-being, but I was so scared mostly for my parents' well-being. But in the process, it chips away from our own soul. It chips away, but for me, as much as when we see homeless in here, as much as we see any kind, you choose the injustice that you end up working on. You can't fix a whole world, but you choose the one that the one you choose that triggers. For me, I created a whole organization out of that injustice that I grew up in, out of seeing my brother being thrown in the mud and tortured, and he did not have a voice, nor did anybody else to say, this is wrong, stop it. So what do? I create an organization that helps women survivors of wars, where they are the most silent people usually. Their voices are not usually heard, and I become an advocate from the bottom of my heart for their voices. They need to be heard. But that's the injustice that stemmed from my own story. And we each have, so there's no judgment which cause is better or worse. You choose health, you choose violence, you choose whatever it is, nutrition, environment, animals, it doesn't matter. But what matters is that you act. Because not acting, we all become part of the issue. Now, it is much easier to talk the talk. It is very hard to walk the walk. Very, very hard to walk the walk. So I was only 23 years old when I started Women for Women International. I had just immigrated from Iraq to America. I had no money whatsoever. My family was in Iraq, stuck in a war. I had been newlywed when I learned about the concentration camps and the rape camps in a country I never heard of, Bosnia. Had nothing to do with it. They're not I don't know anything. I went to the library. These days, there was no internet where we can just Google things. And I went to the library and I looked at who are the Bosnians, what do they believe in, what's their language, their religion, their culture. But I knew I needed to act, because it was the same month I learned about the Holocaust and how millions of people went to concentration camps and got killed while the world watched. And how the world promised that never again we will let this happen again. But in the same month I learned that fact. I also learned there were images of concentration camps where now different people in Europe being put in again. Rape camps where women were given numbers, and each woman, when the number got called, you go to the other room and get gang raped. And so in the same month, I learned a historical fact and a current fact that concentration camps were happening in Bosnia. And people said never again before, but it's happening again. And so I felt, well, we have to do something. And that I was in America, not in Iraq, that I had the freedom to express myself, and thus I had the obligation and the responsibility, when I have the freedom, to do something about it. In Iraq, I sort of, I wish I acted, but I also had my reason not to act. I was scared. But in America, I had no reason not to act. But that's when I confronted another kind of fear. So I'm 23 years old, idealistic, saying we have to do something for Bosnian women, and we have to reach out to them and send them money and send them aid and send them all of these things and tell them they're not alone and help them out, right? So I'm 23 years old. All my friends made fun of me, every single one. Everyone says like, oh, please, just get a job. Get a job, get a house, get a car, live your life. What are you doing? I became such a boring friend, the one who always talk about what I'm working on, even in parties, over weekends, July. I was like, but this is what's happening in the Bosnians and da-da-da, and everyone stopped talking to me. The best are the ones who actually made fun of me. They said, oh, you're just trying to be Mother Teresa. And I'm like, no, I have a fashion sense. I like fashion. Mother Teresa did not like fashion, Please, do not compare. So, but the point is, to start something that you believe in is not necessarily a happy story. Headline news. We only celebrate it at the end. You know, I give a lot of lectures in universities and people say, wow, you're living the life. You're like, you know, I was like, do you understand what I had to go through to come here? It is not an easy story. It entails believing in something, a vision, when no one else believes. And you feel alienated and alone and isolated. And that sometimes leads you to even doubt yourself. Am I doing the right thing? Am I, you know, this is just to let you know, this is very, very, very real. And it happens whether you're a social entrepreneur or a business entrepreneur or it doesn't matter. You're believing in something and people around you are just like, well, just get a life. Or you don't, and it entails self-sacrifice. You're sacrificing other aspects of yourself, be it money, be it your whatever, being able to live, pay your rent, go to a restaurant, eat, whatever it is, the basic luxuries of life. It often entails sacrificing yourself in the process because you believe in this job. You believe in this cause. But that journey is a very, very lonely one. It's a very hard one. I don't know about you, but I tell you, it was my own. It was very hard for me. So I had to dig deep at one point and understand, where is it? Where is my truth? Where is my own truth? Am I doing this to be this? Or am I doing this to simply live my truth? You know, when I meet people and they say, my dream in life is to be rich and famous, I go as far away from them as possible. Because that's not a goal. That can't be a goal. That's not an authentic goal to be rich and famous. The goal is, for me, is to be true to yourself in whatever area in the world you want to be in. You choose to be an artist, a technician, a nurse, a doctor, whatever it is. But what is your truth towards your own self? When I, again, at the end of my one journey, because I'm just starting, that's why I'm passionate about it. I understand the fear and the doubt and the loneliness and the worry, and am I going to make money? I'm going to make money. Am I going to be able to eat, to pay my rent? To all of these are, everyone goes through it, from Steve Jobs at the early days to all of us here. And if you haven't, please tell me your secret, right? So you go through that and you have to ask yourself, what am I doing? Am I being sincere to myself? Am I being honest to myself? And so when people, again, in the end tail of my journey, they say, oh, you are now this and this. I was like, I don't care about this and this. I was just trying to be my own, living my own truth. And my truth meant that I was going to war zones, and meant that I was passionate about women's issues, and meant that every time I went to Congo or Rwanda or Sudan or Afghanistan or my own home country, Iraq, then I would just come back crying because that was my truth. I was passionate. I am still passionate about exposing the voices of women and what they've gone through, and exposing the injustice that happens in wars. But ultimately, the underlying reason for that, it was my brother being thrown in the mud. I mean, this is how personal for me, the injustice. This is how personal for me. So you have to go and you ask yourself, what is my truth? Am I being in truth to myself and to my own values? Why am I doing what I'm doing? And the process, and that's the journey. That's when you are really starting the journey. In my case, I'm now in my second or third journey in life, and in every time I go through the same tests and the same challenge. And then things open up. Something, a miracle almost happened. When I started Women for Women, I was 23, as I said. I was newlywed. You know, instead of going to our honeymoon, we went to Croatia to the refugee camps. And we put every single penny we have in the organization, my ex-husband and I. Everything, we just put it on in the organization. And so But there were times in which we did not have any money, and I was like, oh my God, how am I going to pay the rent? How am I going to do? And I cannot close because I'm helping a few hundred women, and I'm so afraid and all of that. And a check comes. A check comes. Just before I give up, just before I gave up, actually, a check came for $67,000, $67,500 to be very precise, from someone who nominated me for an award without me knowing. So the journey for me then, pay attention to the check, and the check is not always money. The check is sometimes someone believing in you. It takes only one person believing in you to understand, I'm okay, I'm not insane. The check means sometimes someone give you money, sometimes when someone give you an opportunity, sometimes it doesn't matter. It's someone showing up and saying, oh my God, I know so-and-so and you need to meet so-and-so. It's pay attention to that path. When the doors open, it just opens, and so pay attention, because for me, this has gratitude in it. Like, I'm in the right path, I'm okay. I remember first time I went to Iraq after the war, and I was so afraid, and I'm landing in the airport, and my father was the head of the airport, so, and now it was American, what do you call it, tanks all over the airport, and soldiers, and this is a scene that I'm very familiar with, the airports and my family, and da-da-da. And I'm nervous, and I'm like scared, and oh my God, if they know I was I was the daughter of Saddam Hussein's pilot, what would they do? I was very nervous. So a soldier, an American soldier, is processing my paper, our paper, the people from the passengers, and he said, who is with Women for Women International? And I'm like, I am, but I can go, really. The plane is still there, I can go back. And he spread his head and he said, welcome to Iraq. This country needs you. He doesn't know I'm Iraqi, he doesn't know anything. I call him a check. It's not money, you see. It's like a message that I'm in the right path. When I'm doubting myself, when I'm scared, when I'm in fear, I look for what is the message that am I in the right path or not? And sometimes it is money, and sometimes it's other things, but the value cannot be on the money only, though the money is important. So it may take you a while to start the journey, the doubt, the fear, all of these things, but then the checks start coming and the door starts opening, and then the journey becomes a different kind of one. It becomes about being fully present in the moment that you are in. That's the headline for me. It entails being fully present in the moment that you're in. Present for the people you are serving. First time when I started my work 21 years ago, I was so excited. I was like the educated woman who's going to Bosnia, and it's like I'm going to help all these women. And it was so much more about me. I am like doing this, yes, da-da-da. I'm not acknowledging that, but I'm excited. I'm going to help them do that, all of that. And I can tell you, it had become consistently a humbling journey. For example, in my 20s, I used to think that I'm a feminist. I don't have to, this is war. I go with my, no fashion, no nothing. I don't have to look beautiful. It's okay, it's war, all of these things. I'm going to Bosnia. In the middle of the war, it's besieged. The city Sarajevo has been besieged for 4 years. I go with the UN underground tunnels. You go through checkpoints. It's a scary thing. I go to the women and I'm like, okay, great. What can I give you next time? What can I get you next time I come here? And they said, lipstick. And I'm like, lipstick? Seriously? No. Don't you want vitamins, protein bars, something like lipstick? And they said, yes, we want lipstick because that is how we need to stay looking beautiful. That is part of our resistance. We have no food. We have no clothes. It's not the no food. As they said, this is the simplest thing. That every day we go out of our home, we actually make sure that before the sniper kills us, he is to kill a beautiful woman. A beautiful woman. This was Bosnia, but I started appreciating the concept of beauty everywhere in my travels, especially in war zones. That people resist sometimes with the smallest ways, with the ways of carrying themselves with integrity and cleanliness and beauty. It is actually from the Congolese women that I learned to dance. They were dancing despite of all the things that they went through, and they were dancing. It was from the Rwandese women that I learned to sing, because they were just, I was like, if they just got 800,000 people killed in 100 days and 500,000 women raped in 100 days, and they are singing, who am I to be melodramatic and take myself so seriously? Who am I to come to America and get depressed? And I'm like, I have to join them in the singing. That's human resistance. I thought that if you are a poor person, you had to look poor. And if you came to Women's office cleaned up and nice, and I was like, is she really poor? I don't know, she doesn't fit poverty look. And I actually learned this is how people resist. No matter how much you don't have, you still carry yourself to remind yourself of what you are. So we have all these negative images of the people we're trying to help, but we don't actually respect them in the process. I heard the Dalai Lama told me once, he's told a group of us once, if you cannot respect the people you are helping, then better not help them. If you cannot respect the people you are helping, then better not help them, because you know what? They will feel your lack of respect. And they will know it. You will behave it, even if you don't acknowledge it to yourself. And that is destructive. So respecting them. So what does respect means? What does respect means? You know, it's the simple things. First, understanding that the knowledge we have here in this room is not it. Whatever knowledge you have, whatever university you went, whatever studies that you have, whatever stage in life you have become, there is much more to learn. So much more to learn. And if you are with a poor person sitting, whoever it is, this person, whether it be it in America or in Uganda, and sitting and you don't hear what they have to say, then you are not serving them properly. My most favorite stories, I was in Bosnia trying to help a Bosnian woman to give her a microcredit loan so she can start a chicken business. I don't know anything about chicken. So I was helping her do the business plan. How many chicken you need? What's the cost of the cage? The food, the inoculation. I'm asking her basic things just so I can see the costs. How much an egg is sold for, all of these things. And then at the end, I was like, well, how many eggs a chicken give a day? And that's when she lost respect for me. So she looked at me and she said, you are going to help me figure out this business plan. A chicken gives 1 egg a day. 1 egg a day. Now, a lot of you here from overseas, so I suspect you may know a chicken give 1 egg a day. Believe me, usually of thousands of people, maybe 2 usually know the chicken give 1 egg a day in America. And so her knowledge, her business cannot succeed with my knowledge. Do you see what I mean? Her business could only succeed with a combination of her knowledge and mine. So it was a lesson number 1, humility. I do not know it all. And maybe they are illiterate. And maybe they speak a different language. And maybe they are, I don't know. But I don't know it all. And they still have a lot of knowledge and wisdom. And I cannot be arrogant just because I speak English and I went to university that I know it all. So the knowledge and wisdom, I tell you, when people ask me, who are your best teachers in life? More than my mother, more than my father, more than any teachers I had in school, or college, or my undergrad, or graduate, anything, it is the very women I worked with. It is the woman who said, a chicken give 1 egg a day. It is the Congolese woman who, despite her legs being cut, she started running a marathon. It is a Bosnian woman who kept the music school in Sarajevo open for 4 years, Despite the snipers, despite the war, despite everything, she made sure the students came every day and they played the piano and the violin. That was her resistance. It was the women in Congo who really taught me how to dance. Believe me, until the age of 30, I did not know how to dance. And until the age of a few years ago, I did not sing. And it was in the women. They are my best teachers. They taught me how to live life and be in the present and be humbled. Be humbled. What is poverty? It's a humbling moment. An Iraqi woman told me about a time in which she was hungry. This woman, I know her. Like, she grew up in my house. And she said during the war, there was 3 weeks in which she was hungry and she had no food. And finally, her brother-in-law came with two sacks, one of potatoes and one of rice. And she said, we cooked the food and we fed the children, and he did not eat, and we were all silent. And after we washed the dishes and we put the children to bed, my brother-in-law came to me and he says, you know, this food is stolen. I stole the food. And she looks at me and she says, Zainab, you know, we know stealing is a sin. It's haram, as we say. I know stealing is a sin. But when you are hungry, you don't care where the food comes from. You just eat it. It's a humbling moment, you know. It's a humbling. We're just lucky 1,000,000 times over for anybody who doesn't have to go through that moment. And if you are the person, and she said, when people feed us as poor people, they think it's building bridges of peace with us. For us, she said, for us, I just want their respect. I want them to see me. So we confuse when we give our old clothes or when we give our food or whatever, we confuse ourselves with being good. That's not good enough. That's just extra we're giving. What people observe is how you are behaving. How are you showing up? How are you respecting that person, that Radhiya, that Iraqi woman that just told me what she did? How are you reminding yourself of your own humbling moments in your life? The moments where you did not know, and you did not have, and were not powerful. How are you constantly remembering so you may not forget as you deal with other people? But in the meantime, as you do the work, when you start the work, you have to be practical. You know, forgive me, but the people are just like, love, 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 love. It's all love. It's all love, 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 love. If you're hungry, you need to eat. If you don't have a job, you need to have a job. If you need, be practical in whatever you do. Out of love, be practical. For me, love is not stupid. Love is a very smart thing. Love is real. Love is practical. Love is honest. Love is respectful. That is love. And so whatever you do, don't tell someone, oh, please go. And, don't just talk. Don't promise something you cannot deliver. Hope, for me, is the most important asset each person of us have. So never fool with someone else's hope. Never. Be very practical. That's the best advice actually I can give you. In my case at Women for Women, we're working with women in wars. They needed money. We made sure we asked every woman in America to sponsor one woman in war at a time by sending her $30 a month. Out of this $30 a month, we raised $100 million from people around the world, just $30 a month each one. $100 million. People in war, you feel you're isolated and that the world has forgotten about you. So at Women for Women, we made sure not only we want your money, but we want your story. So write the women your story, who you are. If you want to show her respect and love, you've got to also share part of yourself. We always want to hear the other people's stories. Well, you have to also show respect by sharing your own story. And everyone has a story. Everyone. I don't care where you grew up. I don't care where you were raised. It does not matter. Everyone has a story, and there is not one story that is more important than the other. They each have exactly the same impact on the person where the story is off. So don't judge, oh, I don't have enough story. You have a story, and part of your showing love and showing up to the people that you are there for them is you share your own story. That is part of the sharing. And I actually feel that this is such an important thing, to share who you are. You know, I have friends. We all have friends. Thank God I have some friends. But there's one friend who I've known him for many years. And every time it's like, oh, everything okay? And he's always asking me about my stories. And I'm just sharing. But I don't consider him a very close friend, because he's just asking me to give the stories, but I don't know who this person is. And one day, I said, how are you doing? And he told me his story. And he was telling me about he's struggling with this and that and that. And for the first time, I was like, my God, this is the first time I can connect with you as a person. And as a result, we became a very good friends. But the point is, it's the same thing when you're in the field in front of that patient that you're in front of. You've got to share your story, so that's how you show up in person for them and with them, not as a superhero. Another thing, few more things. So I do all of these things. Woman for Woman gets built. We get featured on Oprah Winfrey's show many, many times, all of that. And then I decide that I want to do something different, which is going back to my own home region, to the Middle East, and doing the same work in a different medium. So I decided to resign from the very organization I built 18 years later, and resign completely 20 years later. I decided that I have to let go of what I built so I can start a new thing. Letting go is as hard as starting. Letting go is as hard as starting. And I am as proud of myself letting go as I am starting. Because how do you let go to the new generation? It's a humbling moment. How do you let go and say, I have done this chapter of my life and I'm going to pass it on for a new energy, new people, and trust. And trust is going to be okay. But let me tell you what I learned in the letting go process. Throughout my work, I thought that the cause requires me to sacrifice myself, whatever I was working on. So every day I wake up and work, and then I wake up again and I work, and I gave 1,000% of my soul. I squeezed my soul like this to give it to the cause that I was working on. And here's the headlines, people, so you don't have to go through the journey I've gone through, if I can spare you. The cause does not require you to sacrifice yourself. The cause you are working on, the injustice, what we started the discussion with, does not require you to sacrifice yourself. In other words, if you want freedom for people, you have got to be free from within. If you want people to be healthy, you have to be healthy. And I don't mean only you're not sick. I mean healthy inside of you. If you want people to be happy, then you've got to be happy. If you want people to have love all over, then you have to have love in. If you want to be dancing, then you have to do that. The cause does not require you to sacrifice themselves. And those of us who are passionate about social justice and we put all ourselves in it, oftentimes we find ourselves exhausted, depleted. In our private bedrooms, we're just exhausted. Indigenous people and all over the cultures, there's an Angela's area, and a social anthropologist. She says, when you go to different indigenous communities and your soul has been tired and exhausted, they always ask you the two questions. When was the last time you stopped dancing? When was the last time you stopped singing? When was it that you stopped dancing? When was it that you stopped singing? Because how can you give if you are not full? How can you share and excite and give optimism and hope and energy if you are inside depleted? So you've got to take care of yourself. As I preparing my note today, and I was thinking of Gandhi. You know, we always idealize people from afar. We look at the big picture, and no one is no one is ideal. Everyone has their own issues. But listen of what Gandhi, what did he do for a lot of his days? He spent cotton. He spent hours every day spinning cotton. It was his meditation. But this is a man who led a major movement. What was it that Mandela did 27 years in prison? Spinning cotton, it's not spinning cotton, moving rocks. These moments of silence, they are not doing nothing. These moments of silence when you spin the cotton, or when you go to the gym, or when you're in prison moving rocks from one place to the other, these phases of silence for yourself every day or every year, they are not for nothing. They are for building. These are my ideals, Nelson Mandela and Gandhi. And they spend years of their lives in silence. Silence, but they are the ones who changed the world. They were not working 15 hours a day and competing with each other, bragging, well, I just work 15 hours a day, 7 days a week. They did not do that, not what we're doing right now. It's a long journey. We're not going to change the world overnight. So buckle up as you're starting, put the seatbelt on, and take care of yourself as you go, because it's a long journey. This whole idea of complete, utter exhaustion does not work, and don't judge yourself in the process. Let the silent moment be silent, and let the happy moment be happy, and then let the night that you're going out dancing be the night you're going out dancing, whatever it is, because you have to be the change you want to see in the world. That's how it works. That's my biggest headline. I don't know who said it actually. I think Gandhi said it. But it took me only a couple of years ago to realize it. Oh my God, it's inside of me. Everything is inside of me. I happen to love the divine. I happen to love God. So I think God is inside me. And we all happen to be afraid of the evil and all of that. But I think evil is the one that whispers in my head. It's my brain. It's my brain that whispers doubt and fear and all of that. It's not someone outside of me. It's inside of me. So how can I change the world outside of me if I don't change inside of me? You are the change. Be the change. This is the life. This is, if all of us become what we want, then it does. Does that make sense? I hope it actually, I don't know if it makes sense. Anyway, finally, the world we live in is a product of our imagination. The world we live in is a product of our imagination, so we might as well reclaim our imagination. Might as well imagine what you want to do. So I changed my life. You know how I changed my life? I was meditating one day with a group of women and with some music in the background, and one of the women started crying, and the music became a Middle Eastern music. Okay? And so I'm meditating, and Middle Eastern melody, which I'm from, and a woman crying, which is the sound of home. The sound of home. I was like, it's the sound of home. A woman crying. And all of a sudden I get realizations like I want to do something in the media. I want to work with Arab and Muslim women. I want to show the possibilities of change from within the culture. I had like a whole new ideas, like completely new idea. I knew nothing about the media. Let me tell you something. 3 years later, everything that this came to me in my meditative state actually is proven with track records by Major McKinsey and Booz Allen and all of that. And those who have heard me say it 3 years ago, they're like, how did you know that this is the thing to do? It's imagination. It's just playing. It's fooling around. It's playing with imagination, and we manifest it. is allowing ourselves to believe that this is possible. So I go and change my world and leave the very thing I built to do something very, very different. And I go through the process of pain and fear and doubt and all of that from the beginning, even though I have proven my track record. But it is about imagination. So reclaim your imagination, reclaim your health, your fun, your all of the, it's a bad, like, you know, I come from the Middle East, we have lots of wars going on right now. I just, again, I put the seatbelt on, it's gonna be a very long journey. But the only way to do it is to be healthy. The only way to do it is to be healthy and happy and humble and stay in humility. And never forget the time that you were weak and vulnerable. And share your vulnerability, because in the sharing we connect with each other in a more real way. And it's not all perfect. It is sometimes challenging and hard. And sometimes it is beautiful and fulfilling. And that is the world in its complexities, and its good and its bad, and it's inside us and outside of us. So I'm a big Rumi fan. Rumi is a 13th century Sufi poet. And he says, out beyond the walls of right doings and wrongdoings, there is a field, I shall meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, the phrase, even the phrase each other no longer makes any sense. So I say meet in the field. Let's make that field a bigger place. The field where we are all one. Where all our stories, no matter what cultures we come from, is part of the same story. And the field that we're all trying to make the world a better place. But let's do it from inside out as opposed to only outside. So I hope to see you in the field. And thank you very much for listening.